All right, so let's start with the 5 elements of copywriting, right? Typically, we have the 5 copywriting elements for digital assets. Okay, so that is the purpose and the meaning. Your takeaways from this will be what typically comprises of each of the copy styles. Okay, and what goes as also some in some places the formats. So the email copy, the ad copy, the blog copy, there's going to be a social copy, and then the sales copy. Okay, these typically you would formulate in any other format that you want to send it out to. Got it? So what is an email copy consisting of, right? So typically, email, if written in the right copy, right, plays a lot on the psychology, right? So how it is perceived is of course depend on how the person sees it. But a typical format for an email should consist of a subject, a hook, a focus, and a plain kind of write up to understand what is the larger communication you want to pass on. So, in the subject line is one of the most effective kind of format that comes into play because that will give the intention for somebody to read it. That's number one. Number two, what is the hook that should be upright coming in? Hook in this case, as you remember, right? We talked about lead magnets. We talked about hook, right? This is the hook would mean that what is the reason that people will take the next step from the email that is asked for. So that is the hook. Again, we mentioned free books, some chapters free, some subscription cost, the newsletter, the blogs. One of those things that you intend giving. That's the hook. Then, what is the focus behind the email that you're sending? Okay, the hook is given upright, so you know. So, what will verify that is the focus. Now, that is where your text comes into existence, and the focal point could be that your intention, or you written a book, you have another digital asset like a course, etc. That is the focus area, right? What do you want this reader whom you're sending and directing an email to conceive or perceive this as? All right. Below that, that typically is a repetition of plain text activities. What does that mean? Is that uh, the focus that you brought about, right? There could be an element of a story or a quote or a review that has been given that goes as a plain text over there for somebody to perceive it. Okay, just to reconfirm activities. Then from there, as a second cycle, you play with the psychology, the format has been given, then you do follow-ups, right? As I told you, if you have your series of mails in place, the sequence, which is automated by the application that we will use for automation, that sequence should play up automatically based on the reaction of the CTA that you given in the format. Okay. CTA incidentally for people is the not the cost to acquisition, it is call to action in this case, right? So the follow-ups happen, right? Sometimes you have to do broadcast emails, all right, where you blast uh, emails to various email lists that you have, either blindly, which is never the best way of doing this, or to a perceived community for which you want to pass on some communication to do certain action points, which we mentioned in the format. Okay, so that's the second type of copy, and the other type of copy. Then the action plan, right? A 8-day follow-up or a 7-day follow-up or a 4-day. That is the purpose of this, right? So you have a format and you have an action. So this is how the whole system works. So there's a whole play of psychology. There's a format to be written. There's a follow-up mechanism. Then the broadcast sent out to the relevant audience, and then it's an action plan. Clear? So this is how an email copy typically kind of is conceived as an ad copy, right? If you see various ad copies out there, they have a headline, very effective. So that is one of the most important. Like the subject is important in the email, headline, one of the most important things, right? And you write a description, what you intend passing the communication as. And typically the body of content should consist of, you know, uh, they call it a break attention because that itself, immediate, will create them to start focusing on this, right? So to the point where you start focusing on the problem, right? For the description you've given as probably a question out there, and then explain the benefits, and you do a call to action, right? Once you do a call to action, then the action plan is, maybe put series of ads in play, or a study that is conducted, and a write-up that you've done, and that directs it there, and so on and so forth, right? For the further activity or an outcome that you want. So this is the purpose of an ad copy, right? Blog copy. So typically, okay, so if you see for keywords, typically Uber suggests on a platform by Neil Patel. If you heard of that, it's a very famous figure on the social media, very big influencer. He's created a website almost free of cost, and for the for the charged up one, he's very high, right? But anyway, so there's an Uber suggest. If you write certain keywords or the purpose for it, it'll give you the relevant keywords that should be applicable there, right? So it's like that AI engine I was talking about. Same for LSI graph. So for blog copy, keywords play an important role, hence the mention of keywords upfront. Okay, headlines play another very important role. So keywords first, headlines second. Again, so there are ways of finding these headlines. There are these 181 headlines, course schedule, etc. These are again websites that you can go to find how headlines would be written, or what sort of headlines can be working for you for the given subject. Now, the content will be the subheadline, the sections. Remember the research that we did: why, what, how, what if, right? So this is that section. You write that element of for a blog. Now, remember, you have to do a research to write and get that outcome and a targeted approach to put it here in this section. That was the relevance of coming here. Then you put the relevant images required, and there's enough sites. We discussed Canva, we discussed Fleepick, you know, uh, and various others out there, right? Texels, for example. So you can use these to put your images in place, and then you of course call to action. That becomes your lead magnet, right? You remember the free courses and some other element of subscription and so on and so forth. That will get you to your either your course or your book or your other digital assets that you're creating, and then put an action plan, right? For one blog on Facebook, one on LinkedIn, one on Twitter, etc. So you give that as an action point where people click and they come to your relevant actionable landing page for a conceived outcome. Okay, so this is the top three elements. Now we'll go to the social copy and the sales copy. All right, in the next one. I'll see you there.